Here I'm making the midground layer of my fused glass desert diorama, which is going to go on top of the background layer that I made in a previous video. So this is going to be the mountain landscape that sits in front of that sky. Now you'll notice that I've built this mountain range out of three distinct segments. And that's so that when I fuse this lighter brown land on top, the air can escape through the bottom and doesn't get trapped in the middle, forming a huge bubble. Then I've cut and ground a bunch of tiny cacti to sprinkle across this landscape. I've made some tall and some short and some in pairs because they love each other, but one of them is extra special, and that's this guy. I've built him out of three stacked layers of glass because I want him to look like he's standing in front of the landscape as opposed to melted into it. So, since my landscape has two layers, he has to have two additional layers behind him to prevent him from drooping over. And if you're an experienced glass fuser, you might be thinking, oh, n- um, and you'd be right, but this was the first time I was trying something like this. So here at this point, I've given the whole thing a light tack fuse, and it looks pretty good. There's a slight droop to the stacked cactus, but it's not noticeable enough to be seen from the front. So since I want this layer to look a little more rounded out, I figure I'm safe to refire it at that same schedule. I was not safe to do that. The stacked layers slid off of each other, making the whole top half of the cactus lean to the right. It's even more apparent from the backside, where you can see that the bottommost segment stayed mostly where it was, and the top two shifted progressively further outward. So I just put that down and I redid the entire thing. But this time I used fiber paper. I used two layers of it to support the cactus in the same way that I'd done with glass previously. But unlike glass, fiber paper is heat resistant, so it maintained its shape throughout the firing, which made it a much better support for my cactus. This second attempt turned out exactly how I wanted. The whole layer has a beautiful contour fuse with slightly rounded edges. And from the side, you can see that that tallest cactus is floating above the landscape. The back gives another great view where you can see that that fiber paper really did the job. So now I can take the finished midground layer, put it on top of the finished background layer, and start to get an actual sense of how this piece is going to come together. And just as I hoped, the contrast and texture between the background and the midground, along with the added aspect of the tallest cactus sort of floating in front of the mountain range behind it, really helps to build a sense of perspective. There are still more layers to create and another spacing trick I have in mind, so I'm excited to see what this piece turns into.